Hey, this is DJ, and before we get started, I have a special announcement. Now, we are hosting our first ever Keeping It Real live webinar on January 7th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. CST. We have 3 amazing sessions from our handpicked experts, including how to do lead gen in 2025 from a $290 million annual producer, also how to crush it in video from a top realtor video coach, and a live agent coaching session that you'll be able to do in real time with one of the top real estate coaches in the industry. Now, seating is crazy limited, so please reserve your spot today. Visit keepingitrealwebinar.com. That's keepingitrealwebinar.com to sign up. You don't want to miss this. See you there. Did you know that hiring a home stager has a 300% return on investment on average for the home seller? We're going to talk about that today. Stay tuned. This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keepingitrealpod. And now, on to our show. Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show. Welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And in just a moment, we're going to be speaking with Trisha Lee all about home staging. Before we get to Trisha, I would like everybody to mark on their calendar January 7th, 2025, we are hosting our very first ever live event. This is a webinar that we're putting together with 3 unbelievable speakers, one of which being a $290 million annual producer. He's going to tell you how he generates leads and how you can too. We also have a live coaching session. You're going to be able to follow along and do a live coaching session with top real estate coach. And we have Kim Ritberg to talk all about how to crush it in videos in 2025. Guys, this is something you don't want to miss. Seats are very, very limited. What you can do to sign up and learn more is go to keepingitrealwebinar.com. Again, keepingitrealwebinar.com is where you can sign up and reserve your seat. All right, before we get to Trisha, just wanted to say thank you to everybody for a great 2024. Please continue to tell a friend. Please check out our sponsors and just keep listening. That's what we want. And we're going to keep providing great content to you all through 2025. And now, my conversation with Trisha Lee. Today, our guest is home staging expert Trisha Lee with Lovely Homes. Now, let me tell you more about Trisha. Now, Trisha is a seasoned home staging professional with over 10 years of experience dedicated to helping homeowners transform their spaces into market-ready masterpieces. She founded Lovely Homes to fill a need in her community, offering thoughtful staging solutions that highlight the best features of every home and add value to the selling process. Now, when she's not creating stunning spaces, Trisha loves thrift shopping for hidden treasures, cultivating her green thumb, and soaking up the sunshine with her husband Chad and 3 sons. Trisha's passion for design and her deep understanding of buyer psychology makes her a trusted expert in the staging industry. I would like everybody to follow Trisha on Instagram. You're going to go to Lovely Home Design. That's Lovelee, Lovely Home Design. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. And we have a special giveaway for you on her website, which is amazing. By the way, her website you should visit for nothing else, just to check out her aesthetic. She has unbelievable taste in
Thank
design.
you.
It's lovelyhomes.com, which again is Lovelee homes.com forward slash free. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Just click there. It'll take you right there. Trisha, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to talk to you. I've done this show for 7 years, and I think maybe I've had 1 or 2 home staging episodes over that entire time. I can't even remember how many
Oh,
years it's been since the last one.
wow.
So this is super exciting because it's a part of the business that I feel doesn't really get its due. I don't think it's talked about enough. And it's funny because the home staging experts will tell realtors like, no, you'll actually sell this for more money. This is actually a money net
Absolutely.
positive situation. And I think a lot of agents just maybe they're not exposed to it, or they don't think about it, or they think their clients won't pay for it. So today we're gonna make the case on why virtually every home should at least have some sort of staging opportunity. So let's start with you. How did you get into home staging?
Well, I've always had an interest in it from the first time I was looking at homes to buy my first home, and then when I sold my first home, and then when I sold my second home, and I just really wanted to present a good product. I used to sell insurance a long time ago, and we learned all about the need behind the need, or the why behind the why, and why are people needing this, or why do we need to show them that they need that. And so I kind of integrated that into the home staging process when long many years ago. And then once I was able to kind of decide, well, when people are coming in, they want to really connect with this home. They want to spend time with their family and friends here. They want to have, Christmas here, or send their daughter off to prom here, and things like that. And so really trying to create this emotional connection of having breakfast in the breakfast nook, or dinner parties at the dinner table, or, breakfast in bed and things like that. And so I started to do little things like that many years ago. And then before the internet, a long time ago.
Oh, I
Now,
remember.
yeah, way long time ago before the internet. And then once I delved into so much, the library and all the places you can find any kind of just morsels of information about the home buying process or home staging, which back then, 20 years ago, there wasn't really a whole lot of information about it. And since then, about 10 years ago when I started this company, I really was just helping a neighbor get her house sold. We live in a really nice area with a really good school district, and homes typically sell very quickly. And hers was very low priced, and it just sat there, and she kept lowering the price and lowering the price. And I think one thing that is so important with home staging is people actually telling the truth, and you can tell the truth in love, which is kind of where we came up with Lovely Homes. I think, sometimes sellers get so desperate, and they just want people to tell them either what's wrong with their home and why it's not selling. And I think people are so afraid to hurt their feelings that they don't want to tell them that it has an odor, or they don't want to tell them that it's dirty, or they don't want to tell them things like that. And I feel like at some, they get to a point where they're so desperate to really know why it isn't selling. And so I think that's we speak the truth in love. So we do come at it from a way that we want to definitely tell you, things that are going to make a difference. And so that's kind of what I had to do with my neighbor. I walked into her formal living room and there was a pool table in her living room. And I was like, you you walk right in the front door and there's a beautiful fireplace and all this stuff. And there was a pool table. And I was just like, are you a professional pool player? And she's like,
Because
oh,
that would be the only good reason to have
that would
one
be it.
in.
Like if your livelihood came from playing pool. And she's like, oh, no, I hate that thing. And I'm like, then why in the world would you have that right inside your front door? And anyway, so that kind of I went through her house and she didn't have a dining room table, and I'm like, this is where young families live. You're in a, first time home buying price point of a home, and people need to sit down and eat dinner with their kids, and so just a whole sundry of things. But anyway, it had been on the market for several months and hadn't sold, and they'd reduced the price a bunch, and I went in and moved things around and took stuff down and created a dining room and did some things like that, and she ended up getting multiple offers when her realtor took new pictures and put it back online. And so then I was not a home stager. I was a stay-at-home mom. And then that realtor said, I have another house I'd really like you to take a look at. And I was like, oh, no, no, I don't do this. This isn't my thing. I just really understand what was wrong. And she's like, please come. I will pay you money. And then I thought, well, I guess I could do this. I took my little baby with me and away we went. And he's now having his 11th birthday here in a couple days. And
Oh my goodness.
so, yeah, but anyway, I had just learned and written down so many things about why we would really, why the emotional connection is so important, and just all these different strategies that I've come up with over the years. So, yep, that's how I got into it.
And we should also mention, I like to say this, I want to say this up front because it's a
Sure.
really important distinction between you and other local home stagers. You are located in Kansas, and for all of our
Mhm.
audience that goes, well, I don't practice real estate in Kansas. Don't worry, because we have Trisha on because she has a home staging consulting practice as well. She's the only person I know in the whole industry that does this. So she can actually help you no matter where you are or where the property is. So I wanted to make
Absolutely.
sure that that's
Yes.
something, and you can learn about that at lovelyhomes.com, of course. Um,
Correct.
let's make the case. Well, actually, let me be the realtor who doesn't want to home stage a home. And I'll give
Okay.
you probably a reason you hear constantly, often. It's too
Sure.
expensive, and or I the realtor doesn't want I don't want to pay for it, and or I don't know how to pitch it to my client to get them to pay for it. So this comes up a lot, I'm sure. So what would you say to an agent who says it's just too expensive?
I mean, I feel like the first thing I would say is when you are even considering home staging, I feel like it's important to approach it with asking home stagers or looking for a home stager in your area or even one online, and seeing what their approach to it is. Because I feel like you can work in any price point as a home stager. Here in Kansas, we do vacant home staging. We also do occupied home staging. We approach those totally different. Um, I feel like the budget really concerns with there's so many things that are free, like cleaning is free. I mean, unless you aren't able or don't have elbow grease to put into it. So I feel like there's that. I feel like, opening blinds and taking down old curtains and things like that is free. I feel like turning on the lights that are already in your home is free. I feel like, and then the other things that are so cost effective, like fresh neutral paint and things like that, you get back 125% of what it costs to do it in the price of the home. So I know the National Association of Realtors have done so much research and have so many statistics on home staging, and they have a return on investment of 300% for home staging. So
Oh,
for
amazing.
every $1 that you spend, you get $3 back. So I feel like it is an investment because it does cost a little bit money, but I always tell people it costs way less than a price reduction does. So I feel
Yes.
like being able to put a little bit up front, it also just the impact of it for realtors. I mean, I feel like it makes your houses sell faster, which in turn is good for you in the long run. It gives you an increased perceived value on the home, and then also on your business as a realtor. I feel like it increases your professional image, just making you look like you know more about what you're doing, even if you're not the one teaching them how to stage it, like because you have a professional that does that. Just like in your Rolodex of having painters or having, a handyman or an electrician or things like that. Also, having a really good home stager in your back pocket is just makes you look like a professional realtor. Your first impressions on your homes are always better. You have less days on market. The biggest thing I think a lot of people, we spend a lot of time on trying to minimize the negotiation obstacles at the end of the process. Like once you have sold the house, and because you've taken the extra step on, making sure all, the air filters have been cleaned and the gutters are good, and you've done these checklists and points on our, like, we have a checklist that we hand them that they can make sure all these things have been taken care of before they get to the inspections and things like that, that can slow things down at the end. So I do feel like it's it does cost a little bit as an investment, but definitely pays in dividends, with so much higher price, a higher sales price in the end, and those types of things. And then to answer your other question about, finding a home stager, I know we talked a little bit about this, but we interviewed so many realtors here in our town, and we were struggling a little bit just to kind of get the information out and why staging was important because of those things that you've just mentioned. And we put together a magazine that has all of those questions answered. I feel like for women, they walk into the home and have this real emotional connection, and men are like, let me look at the windows and let me look at the, the
Yeah.
HVAC and stuff like that. And so men really struggle a lot more than women with home staging and why it's important. And so in our realtor's guidebook to home staging, we put in statistics because numbers talk to men a lot more than they do to women typically. They talk to me both ways, but I feel like in our guidebook it has, statistics on why this is a good investment to make, and then of course there's pretty pictures of why it actually gives that first impression. So in today's day and age, we talked about getting started in this before the internet, but since the internet has come along, your very first piece of marketing is your pictures online that people are seeing. And so really making those stand out as being a very tidy, well maintained, bright, light, and neutral home are the things that are going to appeal to buyers right away.
Yeah, and I also, oh, so by the way, to get that guide, it's lovelyhomes.com/free. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes. Download this guide. It has all the stats. It tells you how to overcome objections and just gives you a lot of good information on, makes the case for why home staging is so important. And I was thinking, because you have this consulting opportunity, for people all over really the
Mhm.
world, I was thinking, you were mentioning as becoming a real estate professional, one of the ways you could differentiate yourself is really
Mhm.
getting knowledgeable about why home staging is so significant. And by the way, all I do on this show is interview the top 1% of realtors all across the
Okay.
country, and they all do home staging. Like literally they all do it. It's rare if I meet, the only people that don't do it are people that have their own stock, and they just like, so if you eventually get to a certain size of realtor, you might just be buying your own stuff and you're staging it yourself. But everyone else uses some sort of home stager. But what I was thinking was, you said something, this idea that you're a consultant is really interesting, because what I think I would want to do if I were a practicing agent is I would want to go into a home and say, I also want to take a look and give you some home staging ideas, and go around and take notes and take videos, and then I would come back and hire you to go over that with me, because then you would say, okay, DJ, you're going to tell them to do this, 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 and this. I would pay you a fee to do that, because then I get to go back and be the hero anyway. And then I get to go and say, okay, this is what we need to do. And then you can make the case for how it's a good investment and all of that. But I think that would be an amazing thing, instead of hiring a local home stager, which, by the way, great option too. And sometimes you'll need to
Absolutely.
do that if you need to rent furniture and things like that. But just to go in and do the, like, hey, I'm a realtor, I know what I'm talking about,
Mhm.
go in, take video. I'm going to come back to you with some ideas, and talk to Trisha in between, and she will tell you what to do. I think that in and of itself is an unbelievably smart thing for an agent to do.
Absolutely. And I think it can help too. Like I was mentioning earlier, we're going to be coaching a workshop on like all of these different things that need to happen during, and how to kind of progress through the home for staging it and getting it ready. And I think that being able to have someone to, look to, or to, even a resource to work off of, I think is very, very important. And I think being able to just have that confidence that, looking at the home, what needs to be done next is also a valuable tool as well. It does make you out to be the professional, which I think, you're in a lot of homes and you're doing that. So knowing what to look for is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I just think that's so cool if you go to a listing presentation and say, "Hey, one of the things I do for my clients that is a bit unique is I am going to tell you exactly how to stage this property, and I have a team of people that I consult with to make sure, and I'm going to come back to you with all these ideas, and Trisha's the team." And I mean, that is an incredible amount of value to provide. And I want to talk about why home staging is so important, just aesthetically. So obviously, there's a lot of stats that will tell us why it's a good return on investment, and that's all great. But I also just think, we talk about aesthetics. Instagram is nothing but a perfect aesthetics, right? Like it's essentially for us to make our lives and everything look a little bit shinier and cleaner than they really are, and more beautiful than they are. And that's no exception with homes, right? And so we certainly see, images of homes that are poorly staged or aren't staged at all. But we have an I think as consumers of social media, we have an expectation that a home actually looks like in person, that looks like what we see on Instagram for, home after home after home. And even though that's probably an unfair thing to put on a homeowner, it is the reality in which we live in. And you might as well play with the cards we're dealt, because the expectation is going to be that everything looks perfect, and home staging gets you as close to that as possible. And I'm curious your thoughts on that as
Yes,
well.
I mean, gone are the days of just having to hide the kitty litter, that's for sure.
Right.
Like, we have surpassed that by a mile, and I feel like, I do feel like it's important that we, like, look at it as, as a marketing tool, as a marketing piece. You have this object that we're wanting to sell, and we have to feature it in its best light, and so I feel like the staging is going to be, really try instead of besides just decorating. I mean, I think people kind of get those two confused. When I go into a home, that mean the first thing I say is how we live is totally different than how we stage. So, for example, I was helping a family get their dining room ready to sell, or that's the part of the tour we were on in the home. And I said, that film on the window is awful. You should take that down. And he's like, well, no, no, no. When you sit in this chair and eat dinner, the sun hits you right in the eye. And I was like, that sounds magical. Let's rip that nasty stuff down, because we want so much of that sun to come into this room. And, when they sit down and have dinner in here, they're going to have to deal with that. But for now, we want all the light that we can to come into this room. So, I think that preparing the home for sale is definitely different than how we live. And honestly, on Instagram, I mean, nobody really lives like that anyway. All the mess is on the other side of the camera, but we don't think about that when we're looking at this beautiful picture. So I feel like that's kind of we're trying to prepare this thing to go to market, and we want it to look its very, very best. We want to maximize the features that are there. If there's a fireplace or a view or a beautiful chef kitchen, we're always trying to make those things, elevate those things, and make those even better. And then if there is something like flaws, we always want to try to minimize those. So if you don't have enough storage, I mean, let's just let that be our little secret, and we'll take as much stuff as we have inside of your cabinets and inside of your closets and things like that, and pack those away to move, and then let the buyer see how much space you actually have. There is all this space here, or things like that. So I definitely think it is, presenting this, magical thing that someone can connect with visually, and then connect with emotionally, and then ultimately purchase for a higher price than the one next door. That's our goal.
Yeah, it's this just idea of clutter is really great if that's how you like to live with certain. And I don't mean tremendous clutter, but just having things out on, that
Mhm.
are permanent, sort of things that sit out on counters because they're keepsakes or whatever they may be. They're important, emotionally to you. Get them out of there for the photos, right? We want to
Yes.
see, everybody wants clean lines. We don't want to see the toaster oven sitting out on the, you know, put that in the closet. Um, but I would love to hear. I'd love to go just one little tip per room, if possible, or
Sure.
rather, a mistake that people make per room would be great as well. So when because you must see just a ton of listings, and most listings are not staged, right? And you probably are
Right.
like, how this is. But again, you don't know what you don't know, so this would help our
Absolutely.
audience. So let's think about. We'll start with the primary bedroom. So
Sure. I was
what
gonna
would you
say, let's start at the curb. That's normally what I
let's start
told
at the
like,
curb.
okay, start at the front, like our approach, we kind of check that out. I think the number one thing people often miss is their front porch. And when I say their front porch, I mean like the tidiness of the front porch, especially in our area. A lot of people enter the home through the garage, and so they rarely are on their front porch. And so, I always tell them, the week leading up to your house, the photos and stuff being taken, come back out here to your front porch and check it for like cobwebs and spider webs and, all that kind of stuff that can creep up pretty quickly here, especially and sweeping off your front porch when people are coming to tour your home. They're typically coming from another house with the agent, and so they'll be on the front porch with them while they're waiting for the MLS key to open. And so they're out there, for maybe 20 to 30 seconds standing on your front porch and just looking. And so I always tell people, just revisit your front porch before people come or before your photos are taken. So that's one thing I think
And
is
maybe even ask a few friends to come and say, I need you to take off your hat that we're friends, and I need you to put on your buyer hat.
yes.
Imagine you're driving up to my property. What don't you like from the outside?
Right.
I
I
get that
think a
you
lot of people
yeah,
have overgrowth. I mean, there's so many things I could list, but that typically is the number. Like
the front
one of the
porch.
things that people miss is their front porch, and just having, a fresh doormat is $8 at Walmart. I mean, just
Yeah.
get one that says welcome. No colors, no streamers, no frilly things. Just welcome and a nice fresh doormat, and make sure everything is clean. And I think that that really speaks a lot to buyers. So walking into the home, then like in your entryway, that kind of a thing. I think entryways can vary, how large they are or small they are, if there's a table or room for any of that kind of stuff. But one thing I tell people to do is to remove anything that says you don't have enough storage. So that would be like a hall tree or an extra thing of hooks and things like that. Just says we don't have enough storage in our storage closet. So we have to
Ah,
keep
that's a great. I
everything
I
out
never would
here.
have thought of that, but you're
Yeah. So
absolutely right.
yeah, so that one or the other one would be, like, in the entry closet that you do have if it's full, completely full. That's one of the very first doors that people open when they come in to tour a house, is going to be that
Mm.
entry closet. And so I always tell people to keep that, downsize your coat collection in your coat closet. One of my tips is to store it in luggage that you aren't using right now, because it's, used to having clothing and things like that. It's got wheels, it's easy to move. So store your out of season coats or things that you're not using a lot, and then try to keep that floor clean on your entryway closet, because it makes the entryway feel a little bit larger. So,
And we all care about one thing with closets is how much space there are. And you can't tell, it's
yes,
really the only thing we care about with closets is how big they are. So
correct.
key it,
And
would it
having
would
an
it
empty floor in the closet makes the closet feel
yes.
twice as large.
Oh, that's a great tip. Empty floor. So would you recommend just completely emptying out a hallway or an entryway closet?
I mean, if it's a vacant home, obviously it's going to be
Sure.
empty. If you're living there and it's summertime, maybe you can have just a few things in there. Otherwise, it might seem weird. But I
Okay,
feel
got it.
like one coat per person in your home is probably just gonna be enough. All the excess, I just, you shouldn't have 50 coffee mugs in your kitchen, and you shouldn't have 50 coats in your closet. So
All right. So
that's all.
getting through the entryway, what do we
Sure.
tackle next?
Let's tackle, usually dining rooms are pretty close by, I think. So, my biggest thing on the dining room is people always have the shades, or there's a really heavy drapery in there. And so I always try to get people to let natural light in, making sure that all of the light bulbs in the chandelier are the same color. So the same Kelvin temperature. And depending on if your home is really gray or really brown, that's kind of where we would choose a different colored light bulb there. But I feel like, just making sure all the light bulbs are the same color to start off with is a really big factor that can show up and just look kind of tacky in pictures. So we just want to make sure those light bulbs are the same color. A lot of times I encourage people to set a dining room table very minimally. It just makes it really trigger emotional connection with buyers. So yeah, that would be my main for the dining room. Is the light is a really big deal.
All right, where are we going next?
Let's travel to the living room. I feel like a lot of the gatherings and family time are going to be happening in there. And the same thing with making sure that a lot of times with blinds, a lot of people have blinds in there and they'll just want to turn them open. And honestly, people don't ever usually open their blinds, which I think is so strange. But opening the blinds and actually pulling the blinds up so that you can see the full window and let the full light in, and make sure your furniture, if you do have oversized furniture, that you remove some of it so you don't have wall to wall furniture. Um, and then really highlighting the features. If you have a fireplace, maybe flank some chairs on either side. If your view is what is the best thing, make sure that you have a walk. You don't push a couch right up next to the window so people can't walk next to the window. So, really trying to highlight whatever your feature is and make that even better.
And what about even just like removing a big giant TV that's not mounted to a wall, or obviously if it's mounted that's a bigger challenge, but if you have like a freestanding TV that makes the room look smaller, I suspect there's times where you're like, get that out of there, put it in a closet, and you can always put it back.
Absolutely, you can't always put it back, and I think, when we do vacant staging, people are like, "Oh, are you gonna hang a TV in this room?" And I'm like, "TVs aren't that pretty if you think
No,
about it." I mean,
nobody
a
wants
piece
to
of
see a TV. Yeah,
nobody wants to see a TV, I mean, unless it's in some type of a theater room or a basement,
sure.
something or another. I mean, I feel like that, but I mean, a really nice piece of large tasteful art is always going to have, a better connection with people than a TV. So,
All right,
yes.
so that's living room. Let's go to kitchen.
Yes, the kitchen. I tell you what, kitchens come in all shapes and sizes and colors. But I feel like they all have the same function in mind, that this is where we're going to be, preparing our food and that kind of a thing. So when I think of that, I try to tell people to spend the most time cleaning their kitchen, cleaning the inside of their appliances, the outside of their appliances. Um, and organizing their kitchen. People open pantry doors, people open your cabinetry, they open your silverware drawer, all of that's connected. And so I think when people see a very tidy, clean, and organized kitchen, it really shows that you have maintained your home properly.
Yeah, you're right.
Psychologically, it's going to tell these buyers that you have changed your air filter every 3 months, and that if a leak has happened, you've taken care of that promptly because you are a clean, tidy, and organized person. And so I feel like that's a very important thing, especially in the kitchen, to really drive home.
I have some friends who are have this beautiful home in Blowing Rock. I believe it's North Blowing Rock, North Carolina. Anyway, and it's a married couple, and both of both of these guys are absolute design nerds. And in their entire kitchen, there is not one thing out. There is not one appliance out. There is literally, it is just clean, and and when you walk in, sort of to your point, when you walk in and see it, it blows you away because no one's home looks like that except for these two guys. And and I mean, it looks like straight out of a, well, they're clearly don't live there kind of thing. But it's so beautifully done that you think, wow, these guys are on top of stuff. Like, they're organized, they have their shit together, and it just makes the place look like, you're right. It sort of makes you think more highly of the place itself. And this is something anyone can do, really.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that doesn't, it just is, it is what it is. It is taking 50 coffee mugs down to maybe six. And it is, getting rid of all the excess so that you have room in your current kitchen to be able to store things that you do use daily, but inside of a cabinet space. And so, I think that's one of the biggest things, if it were just to pick one thing for the room, would be to have it, clean, tidy, and organized. And just because it says so much about that. I mean, people know when you're buying a pre-owned home, you know that someone has lived there.
Of
Obviously,
course.
their stuff is there. But I always try to relate that to people about when you go stay in an Airbnb or when you go stay in a hotel, you know that other people have stayed there. You just don't want it to feel like that. You don't want to see dirty
Right.
towels on the floor when you come into a hotel. You don't want to see a bed unmade when you go into an Airbnb. You want it to feel very clean, like you're the first person to come there and stay there. It makes you feel like that it's a place that you could live. So even though they know you're moving out before they buy the home, they just want it to feel like a very clean place.
And I just was thinking, I want to make this point, or get your take on this point, because,
Sure.
and it's not just about staging it for the photos, because that's part one. And then part two is making sure it looks like that when the person walks in, which again, that's a big ask. We understand that people need to live where they live, and they yes, they're going to be a little inconvenienced maybe, and there's some of their stuff's not going to be where they want it to be. But it's important that when they walk in, that the kitchen in the photo, and this is the problem with virtual staging, or and I'm not saying virtual staging has its place and it could be great, but the challenge is if the kitchen doesn't look like what's in the pictures, whether it's virtually staged or professionally staged, and then the person just puts it back to normal, there's going to be a huge disconnect there, and it's going to be like, oh, it's almost going to feel like the photos are no longer real, like the photos I
Right, almost
saw
like a
are
bait
not.
and
Yeah.
switch kind of a thing
Yes.
too, I feel like as well. And I try to really convey that if all these things are done and, even if it's done right before pictures and then pictures are taken and 2 days later your house is put on the market and between the time the pictures are taken, you take a little weekend getaway. I feel like if all things are done properly and the home is priced at the right price, which is due to the realtor and agreeing on the price to put it at, and the pictures are professional and everything has been marketed the way it should be, it really should just take 3 by our statistics show that there's 3 buyers that come into the house and at least one of them puts an offer in. So for us, that's how we look at it is maybe if you do everything right and everything gets done and it's, all of that happens, you only have to live with it like that for the weekend. If we can get, through this weekend and everything is priced right, marketed right, all that kind of stuff, staged right, and everything looks as it should, then hopefully you don't have to do it very long.
Well, I don't want you to give away all of your secrets, but I
Oh,
do
I
want to
have so
ask.
many.
Well, I know, and I want to hold, because I want people to contact you as well, and I want this
Sure.
sort of service that you're offering to be a consultant. I really want this to take off, because this is really, really significant, and you really need, look, we have coaches for all sorts of things in life, and
Absolutely.
the idea of having a home staging coach is a really, really cool idea. But let's give one tip about primary bedroom, and then I'll
Sure.
I'll let you keep your secrets to the rest
Oh,
of our
no.
audience who should reach out. No,
I'm an
Trisha is
open
so
book.
generous. Yeah,
I am an
but
open
let's
book.
talk bedroom.
Yeah, sure. The primary bedroom. This is where, when I'm talking to sellers and realtors about this, I always try to say this is the person purchasing the home where they're going to be resting their head at night. And so we really want this to feel like a place of rest. I mean, intimacy, all those things are going to be happening in this space. And so we want them to really feel like that. When they walk in. And so we kind of joked earlier about Zillow saying, adding white bedding increases your sales price by 30% or your less time on market by 30%. But I do think there is something to that. And I think that kind of goes back to like the hotel or Airbnb thing. When you go to a hotel, you see nice, clean white bedding and white
It's
sheets, and
always white.
it
Yep.
is always white because it always can be bleached and it always can feel very clean, which is why I feel like that resonates with people. I feel like having a proper bedroom, and I think this is one thing that I step on people's toes just a little bit, having a headboard with a bed and nightstands and lamps, things like that, really can showcase that bedroom. And even when we do vacant staging and we go in and we put a bed, I don't ever have to put a dresser in. I don't feel like I do because that's not like the money shot that people see in the room. There's plenty of room for a dresser and they can see that one can go there, but I feel like showing them, this is a king size bed or this is a queen size bed with proper nightstands and lamps and a headboard and thing like that. It doesn't have to cost a ton of money, but I do feel like it shows a proper space. And then also with the bathroom that's typically connected to the primary suite, I feel like making sure of course that's clean. We always encourage people to buy, fluffy white towels and things like that. I don't think you have to go out and get monogrammed things and all kinds of, wild expensive things, but even again, just it can be as easy as Walmart or it can be, somewhere else that's more expensive, but no one's going to be using the towels. We just want them to be clean and we want them to be white. So those are my tips. And, not having a lot of like personal photos and things like that. And I feel like this
Get rid of all the personal photos,
yeah, I
right?
feel like this is kind of where things get confusing for people because when I say, take out all the personal items like your photos and things, Doilies, oh, don't get me started. We'll have a whole, conversation on doilies, but I think when I say things like that, people think I don't mean to remove the personality from the home, I just mean to remove the personal items. So, you can remove all those items and then add in some type of personality through art and plants and tasteful accessories. So, yes,
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. And also, if there's a TV in that master suite, let's remove that for the time being. We can always put it back, because there are a lot of people like me who would never put a TV in his bedroom, only because that's just not how I watch TV. And I like to keep my bedroom kind of just to do for one purpose. Like, and
right.
but not everyone's that way, and some people really enjoy watching TV in bed, and that's great. But I would say, probably another great
I
idea
don't
is
feel
to
like
get
it's
that
gonna
out of there.
help with the sale of the home
Right.
for sure. So, and that's kind of what we have how we have to look at it through each space is how is it gonna help the sale of the home? I mean, I think there's so many things we could talk about for animals and for secondary spaces and exterior spaces and all that kind of stuff that we kind of have a proper little channel that we go through on each of those. And I feel like all of that stuff is helpful for this sale. So I think lots of secrets left to divulge.
Well, I want to keep you coming back so we can share some of those secrets with our audience. But for right
Absolutely.
now, I want everybody to check this out. Go to lovelyhomes.com/free. And again, it's LOVELEE. That's her last name is Lee. So lovelyhomes.com/free. And you could download her magazine, which not only explains, makes the case for home staging, actually shows you some examples, and gives you
Absolutely.
all of the resources you need to be able to sell this service, and it really should sell itself if you explain it correctly, because yes, there's a little bit of money up front, but the return on investment is, I mean, I would love to give any institution my money and get a 300% return. I'd be
Same.
I'd I'd be a wealthy person. So that in and of itself, that's the argument. That's the main argument. And you may have to learn how to make that argument. But of course, obviously, I was funny. I was As you were talking, I was thinking about my place, which is all I have like white everything,
Mhm.
because 3 years ago everything was white, and it still is, and that's fine.
Right.
But I was thinking, and I keep my place pretty not minimal, but anyway, I was thinking, if I were selling it right now, would I stage it? And I went, oh, I totally would, because I don't know what shouldn't be in there. Like, I don't know. And it's going to be like, okay, remove this, remove this, remove this. It's probably just a lot of subtraction more than anything. And that's great, because then, what does it cost? $30 to rent for a month, a storage locker or storage unit. It's not that expensive to get that stuff out of there, move it into somewhere. And even if all you're doing is taking things out,
I mean,
it's not.
editing is a really large process of the staging, definitely. It really is. And in complete and total transparency, I sold my house and moved 7 years ago, and I had to have a friend come. I mean, those commercials where they say you've gone nose blind, to
Yeah,
whatever your smell would be or whatever. I
sure.
always joke about going eye blind, which I think is technically what blind is, but I think when your own space, it's really hard. You get used to seeing things the way they are and you get used to seeing that. So having a fresh set of eyes come in and say, oh, this probably shouldn't be here. I know this probably feels very normal to you to have your couch facing this direction or to have your, entryway with this or your dining table rotated this way. I mean, there's things that seem very normal because of the way that you're accustomed to living. But I think, again, like we said in the beginning, selling is totally different and staging is totally different than living in your home. And so I think it is important to get a fresh set of eyes for sure.
Yeah, it is, because we know as real estate professionals that when we go to sell our own properties, we overvalue them, and we know better. We know this is what people do. We do the same thing because it's human nature. We don't see what someone else sees, because we love our places. We love everything in them. We love the little knickknacks because they mean something to us. But
Right.
and so we, like you said, there is a, I think they're called gestalts, or some sort of blind, whatever the blind spot is. Those are
Hmm.
blind spots, and that's where you need an expert. And that's, I think, what's really, again, the pitch I keep hearing in my head is a realtor coming in and saying, look, one of the things that you may not know about real estate agents is we are fiduciaries. And what that means is We are literally responsible for your financial decisions around selling this property. And my job, I am bound by an oath to get you the highest possible price. That's my job, and I'm literally bound by some of these rules. And so I'm going to tell you some things about what we need to move around here. And I have a team of consultants. We're going to go through it, room by room. We're going to show you exactly what we need to do. And what's going to happen is the home's going to sell faster. It's going to sell for more money. And so, like, that's
And that's
all
a
I would
win for
need.
everyone. Faster and
It's
more
a
money. Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to sell their house faster and get rid of all the carrying costs and all that kind of stuff? And I feel like it's a win-win-win for everyone.
Well, and imagine if you're a home seller and you're interviewing three realtors to maybe possibly sell your home, and they all have probably somewhat similar presentations. We're going to list it, we're going to market it, we're going to do open houses, and we'll put a sign in the yard and we'll spruce it up. Well, great. Those are all great. But if I were an agent practicing, I would go, no, I want to talk about something that people don't usually talk about because it could seem uncomfortable. But I'm telling you, this is so important. And I'm also bound by this fiduciary oath. So I have to tell you these things. And again, right then and there, all of a sudden you're different from every other agent that
Absolutely.
isn't
I can't
that
tell you
isn't
that
using a stager.
the number of times we have had, realtors who have come in and they'll give us a call and they'll be like, okay, this house has sat on the market for 6 months and it is not moving. And, I'm getting this listing now, or the people, have gotten rid of their last realtor and I'm trying to get this listing or something like that. Would you be available to come in and tell them what to do? Or, is this something that you can do? And every single time, I mean, and this has happened time after time after time, that's buyers have come in to see it before it was staged and want nothing to do with it. And then buyers come into the same home after it's staged and they're like, oh my gosh, this is my dream space. And literally the only thing that changed was the furniture, or literally the only thing that changed was, the removal of clutter or a fresh coat of neutral paint, or, there's just so many things that you don't know what buyers are thinking. I mean, I feel like I do. I've kind of devoted my life to it, but I feel like, there's definitely ways that can make it appeal to them a lot more, for sure.
Yeah, and again, what I'll ask our audience to do is take a chance on this on your next listing. Contact Trisha. If you go to lovelyhomes.com, you'll see her services, and she has a few consulting services. One is home staging, another one's interior design. Her home staging consultation is incredibly affordable. Go ahead
Yes.
and try it. Do it with her and see what happens to how how the home performs, and also to how your clients look at you, because you can say to them, I have a home staging consultant that I work with. I'm going to video this entire property and I'm going to come back to you with a bunch of ideas. And again, you're going to see the value in this. And again, you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to know any of this stuff. But
Right.
this is what's so great about considering yourself a consultant. Consultants don't come in and immediately go, this is what we need to fix in your business or whatever kind of consult. They look around, or they look at the business, they do a lot of analysis, and then they come back with a solution. Right? Consultants come back. And so this idea is, you don't have to know the answers right away. You just have to hem and haw and kind of go, that's interesting, and take pictures and video. Go, okay, I'm going to take this back to my team. I'm going to come back to you in a week or a couple of days, and we're going to get to work. That is an incredibly powerful, I mean, most agents don't do that. So
Yeah,
be the agent that
absolutely.
does this, because
Absolutely. I mean, I think
you're
anything that can make you look like you have, more knowledge in the area just makes you have a more professional image, to your clients.
I love it. Well, again, lovelyhomes.com is where you go /free for her magazine that will really help sort of get you on the path of making the case about why home staging is important. And by the way, if you loved hearing Trisha on this episode, and I know you did, let her know that you appreciated her being on the show, and let me know that you loved hearing her too, because I'm having, like, this is a great episode for me. I love learning things like this. And now I have knowledge to share with other agents that Trisha's given me. So I appreciate you, Trisha, of course, for taking time to give away some of the secrets to our audience. It's very much appreciated. And you are incredibly generous and kind. And again, I think this home staging consultation or consulting business you have is just going to if it's already probably skyrocketing, but I
Yep.
want to see it keep growing and growing, because I just think it's a brilliant idea. And I want everybody to check it out. So on behalf of our audience, we all say thank you to Trisha for coming on and sharing her wisdom about how to, I mean, again, how to help homes sell faster and for more money. It's like you don't really get a better deal than that. And on behalf of Trisha and myself, also we want to thank the audience for making it all the way to the end. We appreciate you. We only do this because of you, and we couldn't say thank you enough. So the best way that you can help us, obviously, go check Trisha's stuff out, of course, and tell another friend about this episode. Tell another agent in your office who doesn't know anything about home staging and maybe even is skeptical about it, and say, I've got this episode I want you to check out. Send them over. It really helps us, of course, and you're going to be helping that agent along the way. So you can find us anywhere podcasts are served. Our website, you can even stream it on our website, which is keepingitrealpod.com. But just find us anywhere, Keeping It Real. Hit that subscribe button. We appreciate it. And leave us a review if you have an extra minute. We really appreciate it. We take your comments very seriously, and we make improvements based on that. So if you're on iTunes or now it's called Apple Podcasts, sorry, wherever you are listening, if there's a Spotify, wherever you may be, leave us a review. We would appreciate it because we read them. All right, Trisha, thank you so much. We are going to bring you back very shortly, and we'll talk more about home staging. Thanks, everybody. And Trisha, we really thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.